everybody, welcome back with the Plapper. Platypus is the name, and today I want to talk about Fox's 5-star versus his 4-star weapon. Is it worth getting? How good is it? First of all, you have to have Fox, all right? I know not everyone is pull on Fox, but I thought it'd be fun to compare the weapons since I do have the weapon and I do have the character. So I really wanted to pull this weapon because if you read it, it sounds insane. Let's quickly read over the 4-star weapon, then we'll read over the 5-star. I'll tell you what it does. And then I will tell you how I tested it and why the weapon might be weaker than you thought if you pulled Fox and you're deciding on the weapon or not. All right, his 4-star weapon. Increased defense by 18%. This will, of course, go up as you get it up to 6, up to 34%. And each time a counterattack is activated, increase ice damage by 7.4% for 2 turns, stacks up to 2 times. This is basically, it's going to be 34.5%, just 35% defense and 28% ice damage. And that's basically just going to be permanent because you counterattack quite a lot, unless you're in a fight that he's not very good in which point he's not that good anyway. This sounds strong, it sounds good. But when I read the 5-star weapon here, increased defense by 45% already, boom, it's like 10% higher than the 4-star weapon. Then always have 30% more counterattack damage, right? That sounds huge. After gaining the shield, gain 1 Blade Spirit stack. Increase counterattack damage by 2% per stack, and at 6 stacks, increase counterattack damage by 30%. This to me reads super overpowered. It just reads like there's so many percentages being thrown around, right? You get percentages here for extra damage here, for extra damage here, extra survivability and damage here. It sounds busted. But after trying a damage comparison, it actually didn't seem to be as much as you would think. Let me open up the Microsoft Paint here. There's quite a few caveats here that we got to talk about when we actually get into it, and why I'm just doing the best I can. There's not like a good dummy, but I will show you the fight I used and the strategy I used, but it took a little while, so I didn't want to put that all in the video, so I just put the results instead. But really quick, when we go into it, this is 4 turns in combat. I had only Fox take actions. I didn't have anyone else take actions other than healing him when he got low, not with shields, but with actually healing. And so he did 4 actions, and in those 4 turns, this is how much it's damage. It's like multiplied by 3. Don't worry about the damage number. That's not really important. The point is, with his 5-star weapon, he did 711,000 damage, and with his 4-star weapon at rank 1, he did 516,000 damage. That is only a 37.62% increase. That is pretty darn low. That's less than the Joker weapon. However, a few things that I do want to mention for basically where I think it's going to land. This is not proccing this final 30% damage here. He did get 2 stacks of shields from his own skills, but I wasn't using Puppet because this weapon doesn't have the shield thing. I didn't want to have to get shields in the fight and do all that. So this is not being accounted. I figured I would be able to figure it out, like get close enough with that. So I think if you include the shields, this is going to be closer to probably a 50 to 60% increase. This is a little bit of napkin math, where I'm just it's a little bit of a vibe check, but we get quite a bit more damage out of that. The issue is also because I don't want to, then I have to have the fight go on for like 6 turns, 7 turns, and then I think the longer a fight goes on, obviously those stacks are going to make a bigger difference, and then the numbers become less consistent. I just wanted to do 4 turns so we could do a couple hits. That way you could try to minimize critical hits or as follow-ups if you just did more follow-ups in this one. Like, I don't 100% know exactly if he did the exact same amount of follow-ups in each of these. He might have done 1 more follow-up here. He definitely, I don't think he did more here. I think he might have done the same or 1 more follow-up here. But I think if I would have gotten all the shields, gotten the 6 things, because it's such a slow ramping weapon, I think it would end up being closer to a 50 to 60% damage increase. However, this is where I think it comes back down again. This is a 0 awakening weapon. A lot of times when you're using the 4-star weapon, it is going to be closer to a, max awakened weapon. Maybe not day 1, but eventually you will get it to the peak. So it's going to get roughly twice as good as a weapon. So I actually think when you get the weapon maxed out, it does actually cancel out the benefit of this effect, right? This gives you 30% more counterattack damage after you get the 6 stacks. However, this at max ranks is going to give you an extra, like 18% defense and an extra 14% ice damage. I think those combined are going to be pretty equal to this. So I think actually it's a whole loop circle. I think after you get his 4-star weapon maxed out, I think that his 5-star weapon at 0 awakening or awareness, whatever, 0 forge, is going to be around this percent. It might be lower. It might be in the 25. Do you guys know how to type with this? I think it's closer to the 25 to 35% range in terms of power, where a maxed out 4 is probably going to be roughly, you're probably going to get roughly a 25 to 35% damage increase on Fox. Now, again, this is such a weird character because he has follow-up attacks that are based off enemy attacks. So if you're in a fight where you're using his highlight all the time and there's a bunch of enemies, you're going to get more because this is more dedicated to directly doing counterattack damage, whereas this is more flat ice damage. So it will do more when you're using your normal actions, and this will do more that you're doing more counterattacks, right? So it's kind of hard to get it super mathed out. I'm not that much of a nerd. I'm kind of vibe checking it, I'll be honest. But what is also worth noting is that no matter what, because he scales with defense, the damage you get from this weapon is also, so it's 25, I think, to 35% more damage. But also, when you're getting that extra 10% defense, that is more survivability. Is it a shit ton more survivability? I don't think so. I don't think it's like going to be crazy more survivability, but it is actually there, right? Because he's going to grant himself some shield, and he's going to take less damage when he actually gets hit. So there is a survivability factor that you should equate. So maybe you go on a little bit higher towards the 35% in general, in terms of like, oh, is it worth it? So I think this weapon reads as actually overpowered. And I think when you actually play it, it's clearly better. I actually think that this weapon is better for Fox than Joker's is for Joker, but I think it's pretty darn close. This is not like a transformative, insanely powerful weapon. I think at the end of the day, his 4-star weapon is incredibly solid, and it's just a great weapon that you should be happy using. Not like Marion, where I thought her 4-star weapon kind of sucked, honestly, and her 5-star was so good. So I think you could safely skip the Fox weapon. This feels like a whale. It's already borderline a whale character because a lot of people aren't getting them for meta. And beyond that, his weapons are already a little more whale beyond that. And beyond that, a weapon for a lower tier character is even whale beyond that. But I don't think you need to build pity. If you're tempted to build pity on weapons, I don't think you need this. However, if you do plan on using Fox, he's one of your favorite characters, you are going to get a noticeable damage increase on him. I just don't think it's going to make the difference on an account of him being good or bad in a fight. It is kind of funny. It looks like we got more stars in this one. This is the same fight. So let me show you what I did. And this is, again, that way you can kind of judge my testing technique. Was it perfect? No, but this is exactly what I did. We go into the Velvet Trials. I did use enemies that were weak just because it was easier to find enemies that all had the same weakness. I had enemies in different fights. I didn't want any of them weak to ice initially. But the issue is if there was one enemy weak to ice or one enemy strong to ice, if he counterattacked a specific enemy, it made the variance on the numbers higher. Like this guy was weak, and so he did a ton of damage, or this guy resisted it, so only did half damage, and so it made the variance really high. So let's actually go in and take a look here. And I did this fight, number 15 on Nuclear Winter, and this is exactly what I did. I used this team. I did not have a harmony set up. These are the exact characters I used. And these characters did not take an action other than I healed on my boy here. So I guess we'll just run it, right? I did this over 4 turns. So I did Keen Eye, Bada Bing. Then I guarded. Then he does his thing, right? This is just so you could see exactly how I tested it and got those numbers, right? And so again, like I already explained it, but if the fight goes longer, his 5-star weapon is going to become more impressive. But again, you have to keep in mind that even if it is more impressive, that the 4-star weapon is also a low rarity. So on his second turns, we did the Bone Chilling Cold. And then on his third, we don't do the follow-ups. You guard. I did have you switch and use Mother Goddess Blessing here. just to keep him maxed out. I don't think that increases his defense, but I use that same skill one time on both fights. And then he's here, he gets hit. Whether or not he counterattacks, I don't know, but all the time. Then you Kenai, and then I did the Kenai a second time, and then I did the other one more time. So that is exactly what I did and how I tested it. Again, is it perfect? No, but that's why I specifically wanted to do over multiple turns to try to lower the variance, right? Because if you did 100 turns, right, everything would kind of average out. So I didn't want to just do one turn where he might counterattack both of them more than one time. Or something like that. So I just thought doing a couple turns and let the weapon scale a little bit would kind of help. And I think that's a pretty fair way of doing it. So that's how I did it. And that's honestly my conclusion on the weapon. I do not think you need it. It is going to be a noticeable boost and it's a little bit of survivability, but I mean, it's firmly in the dolphin category. I do want to close out with saying, if you do have one awareness on your Fox, the weapon, the 5-star weapon does become quite a bit better. I did get an awareness on my Fox, but this is basically going to make it so every other turn he's going to get an extra super counterattack. So he's going to end up being able to do this AoE counterattack more times per battle, flat out, and that is where his weapon really shines as well. So another thing with an axe on it, bro. Every weapon has like an axe on the bottom. I feel like, but yeah. So it's gonna, if you have awareness 1, that's when you might want to reevaluate. And I think honestly, if you're getting awareness 1 Fox, you're probably going for his weapon anyway, just because that's the kind of spender you seem to be. But if you have an A0 Fox, honestly, just stick with the 4-star. It's plenty good enough. I got the 5-star because I want it. It's my favorite character, and if that's that you're in the same boat, then feel free. But don't feel like you are missing out on an insanely overpowered weapon like I kind of thought I did when I first read it. It is very powerful, but I think it doesn't work out to be quite as strong as it reads at first glance. Anyway, guys, that's all for today. Much love for platypuses, for platypus. I'll see you on the flip flop. Bye.